Hi, I'm Beth. I'm with the Small Business Development Center at Lorain County Community College, and we're doing a Let's Chat today on cash flow. So I'm joined by Susie Dills of SD Consulting, and Susie works with many small businesses to help them understand their numbers and works with them on financial management. So Susie, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Beth. You're welcome. Great to see you.
You too. So tell me more about how you help small businesses.
I am a consultant with the Small Business Development Center. I've been here for about 10 years. So I've seen a lot of different businesses. So every sort of situation from pre-venture startup to existing companies that have been around for many, many years, up to 60 years. So seen it all, see all different kinds of industries. So my primary focus is bookkeeping, how to get everyone set up on how do you manage the financial part of your business? How do you record your profit, your expenses, your revenue, and then also budgeting and, of course, cash flow. And then I also have some clients that I work with on just through my consulting business, SD Consulting Services. I do have one client that I've worked with for almost 10 years, and they're the type of client that goes through a lot of seasonal ups and downs, plus sometimes really tight cash flows. So you see so many different situations for each different type of business.
Yeah. And this is probably an area that, as you know, a lot of businesses don't like to do because it's not fun, right? It's not the
Hmm.
glamorous side. You're not making your thing or creating your product or what, or like your service, but it's really the most important piece, right? Because if you don't know your customer and you don't know your numbers, how are you going to stay in business? And so we talk about that all the time. And I think that some of the ways people survived in COVID actually was because they knew their cash flow, they understood it.
Yes.
So I want to dive more into cash flow. So, what is cash flow?
When I talk to folks about cash flow, I always tell them think about it as like that physical cash. That's the money coming in and out of your business. So it's almost like when you think about your a bank account, you're putting money in when you're making money, that revenue, and then you're taking money out when you have expenses, whether you have a debit card and you charge your expenses or you're paying for them by check. But think of it in that manner. It's that physical cash.
And what is the difference between like positive and negative cash flow? What does that mean?
So when you think of positive cash flow, that would be when you're able to sustain all of your expenses and still have cash left over, maybe at the end of the month, the end of the year, but it's that extra money that you achieve after you pay all your expenses. But if you so happen to have more expenses than the money that you're bringing in, that's when you start to get into that negative. And even if previously you had money in the bank, you could start chipping away at that stash that you have in the bank by continually going through negative cash flow month after month.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's I think people don't always understand you don't have necessarily always have money in the bank. It may look like it, but you
Yeah.
have outstanding expenses coming up and things like that. But so, okay, why is it so important to understand your cash flow, right?
So, so just like you said earlier, and I will give you the statistic, 80% of small businesses, the reason why they fail is because of lack of cash flow, because they
That's
don't
astounding to
understand.
me.
Yeah, they don't understand how that money moves through their business. It's your lifeblood, it's your survival, it's how you're going to price your products. It comes all back to that strategy. So that strategy is so important for every piece of your business. And if you're a little hesitant or you don't quite understand about that cash flow number, I mean, it's so important to get a handle on it, understand it, and then start doing the exercise of how much money is coming in and how much is going out every week, every month. so that you could be more strategic.
Right. Um, I know we'll say this maybe during this talk, but it allows you to make decisions when you know your numbers.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm sure
And
we'll reiterate that throughout this. So, yeah,
I think every client I've met with, and I've probably met with a couple hundred by this time,
right.
that's what I tell them with, proper record keeping and knowing your numbers is that you can make important strategic decisions about your business all the time.
Mhm. So we hear things about like profit, revenue, but what is cash flow versus profit?
Okay, so cash flow, once again, it's that physical, that's the money going in and out. It's going to determine your survival, where your profit's going to measure your success. Are you, is your pricing strategy, what's that cost of selling your product? Are you covering all those expenses plus all of your other operating expenses and still showing that profit at the end? It's going to measure your success, where your cash flow is that, once again, that survival, that true physical cash that you need to run your business.
Right, right. And so, now that you've explained why we need to know
Mhm.
it, we need to keep track of it, right?
Right,
And
right.
so there's not everyone may know this, but many people have heard this. Like there's cash accounting versus accrual accounting. So
Hmm.
explain the difference, and can you give examples of maybe some businesses that might be on cash accounting versus businesses that might be on accrual accounting?
Yeah, and cash accounting is actually is quite rare. You're not going to find that, especially in today's business world. Often, that's where folks they're going to get paid cash right on the spot. They provide a service. They're there. Their customer either pays them by check or by credit card. So it's that instant cash exchange. And same with their expenses. They're going to pay their bills every single month when they come due. So it's almost like cash in, cash out. It's very simplified, but there are not very many businesses that operate like that. I'm trying to think if I even have anybody currently that I'm working with that's strictly cash basis.
Right, right,
Most folks and when people talk about accrual accounting, it's not a bad word. It's just the type of procedure that you go through in the record keeping world. I mean, most folks are going to invoice their customers. And
right.
once you invoice your customers, you're actually invoicing them for a service that you provided. So you actually provided them that service. They owe you that money.
Mhm.
However, you're not going to get that cash instantaneously. So then what do? You have to set up your record keeping process to allow for that understanding of what customers still owe you physical money,
Right,
cash.
right,
So that's what accrual accounting is all about. It's just being able to capture and keep track of almost like numbers that are revenue that's in limbo almost.
hmm,
Because if you don't keep track of those customers that owe you money, then you're never going to get that cash. And then you're going to start to feel that physical cash crunch immediately. And so you set up aging. Once they hit 30 days, maybe re-invoice them or get on the phone and call them or email them or, figure out ways to collect that physical cash because most businesses are going to run on accrual. And then
right.
if you have vendors that send you invoices, the same idea. You owe that money to a vendor. So therefore, you have to have some kind of record keeping process to keep track of that money that you
Mhm.
haven't paid cash for yet.
Well, right. And this part I think is probably the most important part in understanding your cash flow because you are waiting for people to pay you and people
Mm-hmm,
may be late, but you have bills to pay. And how
mm-hmm,
are you
mm-hmm.
going to pay those? And you can get into trouble using buckets of money to pay other buckets of money, like of bills or things like that. Sometimes I'll see clients who like will use their sales tax revenue to pay
Mm-hmm.
a bill because
Yes.
they need, and then they don't have the money
Mm-hmm.
for sales tax. I mean, we're kind of simplifying it here, but like that's what happens if you don't know your cash flow and can't pay for things if you're also waiting for people to pay you, or right, or you think you have more money in the bank than you do, or whatever, because you haven't paid those expenses yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to look at those accounts receivable, that money that's owed to you.
Mhm.
How do you feel, or what's your projection on when that client is going to pay you?
Right.
And that's why you keep up on the collection effort, because that's going to give you a little bit of an idea of when that cash will come in, so that maybe you can, make sure, have that money ready then when a bill comes due. But that's what the whole cash flow analysis process, that's what it becomes, is you trying to match up that money coming in with the money going out the best that you can.
Right, right. And so so you mentioned cash flow analysis. So what are some examples of a cash flow analysis worksheet?
You could go to the most complicated process, or I've done very simplified Excel spreadsheets that you could do a weekly cash flow actually. So you can have, what I do with some of my clients, how much physical money do you have in the bank? You
Mhm.
start with that true physical number. Or some people will start with, if they're just a startup, we might use their projected profit number to kind of do a estimated cash flow analysis, and then go week by week. What clients do you think you're going to get paid, on receivables for that particular week? What revenue do you think is going to come in? What expenses do you have? Do you have to pay rent this week? Do you have to pay your credit card balance? Do you have payroll this week? Payroll taxes? So each client that I work with, we actually set up a customized cash flow analysis. And we can do it monthly or weekly if they're a little bit tighter on cash. And
Right,
then you see what that number looks like at the end of the week. And then you go to the next, you carry that balance to the next week, and you
right,
go through the same exercise. But
right,
I will tell you, when you're sitting there, especially when you're doing the weekly cash flow, you really get that idea of how that money is flowing in and out of your business every single week.
mhm,
And if you're a seasonal business, you also have to be concerned with those down months. Are you going to be able to accumulate enough cash in those good months to cover the slow times? And that's what
right,
a monthly cash flow would help you with. So um, I I usually sit down and we usually do a customize, but there's a lot of templates. I've seen a lot of templates out there. Some of them are complex, simple. I usually go with the simple spreadsheet, and it really makes you deep dive into,
mhm.
how you're all those ins and outs. You think of every single thing about your business when you do a cash flow analysis.
Right. It's so easy to go to, just go, oh, well, I'll just do this and it will be fine. But it's not typically fine if you don't
Right.
know what's going on. And so, for those of you who are watching this, who've worked with the SBDC, you hear this from us all the time, know your numbers.
Mhm.
Because again, it's empowers you to be able to make good business decisions on if you can take on new clients, develop a new product, buy new equipment, whatever it may be. And then if you're also looking for, this is a little outside this conversation, but potential loans or working capital, you
Yes.
need to know these things, right?
Mhm.
So we could get into a whole, let's chat on that. But but it's so, so important. It tells the story of your business. And it tells you where you could be saving money, right? Or
Yep.
spending money that you're not spending money on.
Mhm. Yep.
So,
Because you'll look and say, "Ooh, I got this big expenditure coming up in week two. Maybe we don't need to spend so much on office supplies," or, then like I said, it really makes you deep dive into all that money that comes in and all the money that goes out. And you're right, as far as empowerment, when folks come in here, sometimes they'll be very hesitant on the financial management end of their business. And we go through exercises like this, and they'll walk out of the room just like a weight is off their shoulder. Like they're just relieved to know that they can use a tool that's going to help them be more strategic and make better decisions.
Right. And so, I some people who watch this know that I have my own small business, and I when I owned my retail store, it probably took me 2 years to really understand all of this, because I didn't like it. I was like, okay, we have money in the bank or whatever. But when I understood it, I was like, it was really interesting. It was kind of fun to
Mm-hmm.
go through it. And, I still own another business, and it's probably the thing I spend the most time on is what are my numbers telling me? When can I spend money? When should I shouldn't?
Mm-hmm.
And also it's history too, right? Of how you've done in the past. But it really is eye-opening, and it actually, I think, really makes you feel more empowered, not only to make business decisions, but just that you have control over your
Mm-hmm.
business. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So if you're interested in getting some help with your cash flow, please contact the SBDC. If you're watching this from somewhere else in the country, there's an SBDC near you. So just look it up in your area. And thank you so much, Susie. If there's anything else you'd like to add about cash flow.
I think we covered everything. Just remember good record keeping,
Yeah.
of course, and that financial management.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much. We'll see you for another Let's Chat soon.
Bye then. Bye, everybody.